Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2018-19 CAP Teaching Careers Program Training. I'm Jenny Mears, the instructor, so most of you have met me in person, but if not, I'll be seeing you all soon enough in your classrooms this year. First of all, I want to thank all of you for agreeing to serve as teacher mentors to our teaching cadets. I want to tell you a little bit about our program, but first I'm going to tell you a little bit about the purpose of tonight's trainings. In the past, I've always welcomed teachers to come visit Four Rivers, see our classroom, and we hold an annual once-a-year training at the very beginning of each school year to go over the program, ask and answer questions, and talk about the goals for the cadets. I've used the same PowerPoint in my previous trainings, but this year we're going to try something a little bit different. The beginning of the school year is difficult for all of us. There's so many beginning of the year things that we need to do. So out of respect for your time, we're going to try to have an online training. Here's what I need from you. I'll be sending you all an email with the link to this video, which you're hopefully watching, and you will also receive a copy of a document that I give out to my cadets. That document is the Teaching Cadet Handbook. I update it each year with, sorry about that, there may be updates and things going on our computer, so I'm sorry if there's any interruptions. As I was saying, on the handbook, there are assignments that each of the cadets complete quarterly while they're in the field with you. And I'll be talking more about that later as we talk about the setup of the class. If at any time you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. On the last slide of this slideshow, I'll provide you with my cell phone number, my email address, and my extension here at Four Rivers. One of my main parts of my job is communication and making sure that those lines are open between you, me, and the cadet, so we're all in the know of what's going on to provide as positive an experience as possible for the cadets in our program, but also for you. I'm here to support you, and I want your year to be a beneficial experience as a mentor teacher as well. So reach out anytime. I promise you're not bothering me. So let me tell you a little bit about the Teaching Careers Program. We have been doing this program now for 4 years. This is the 4th official start of the program, and 3 of those years have included sending schools. So whether you're from Washington, Sullivan, Union, St. Clair, please keep in mind that when I'm not in the class with you, I will be coming out and making visits. Some of those visits are scheduled when your cadets are teaching a lesson or doing an activity that they want me to see. Sometimes I just do pop-ins, and that's more to make sure that the cadets are where they say they are, and just to have a chance to observe them a little bit because it does tie into their evaluations. If I ever come in and it's unscheduled, please do not think that there's anything wrong or that there's a problem. Usually I'm just there to see the cadets. So our goal in this program is to allow high school seniors to explore the field of education. We get seniors from all different backgrounds who are interested in all different areas of teaching. So at the beginning of the year when they come to me, they request a placement somewhere between preschool and 8th grade, and I do my best to get them in the building or the subject matter or the grade that they're most interested in. Sometimes they will even request a specific teacher, and if it fits into the schedule and the teacher is available, I will try to make that happen. But more than that, our main goal is to give them all different kinds of experiences. So they do assignments like substitute teaching. They interview different school personnel so that they can learn about all the different aspects of education. Social work, counseling, they talk to administrators, they look at core and non-core. We take tours to places like the Early Learning Center to learn about early childhood. We even tour our district office so they can learn what goes into school administration. This program is by far more in-depth than even the education program that I went to, as I'd say like a sophomore or junior in college. I work with UCM to give our cadets the opportunity to do dual credit. They can earn up to 4 hours of college credit, and that's in the field of teaching. So they would get a credit for the Intro to Teaching course and the Intro to Field Experience. That credit transfers to all the major state schools, including SEMO, Missouri State, UNSL, Mizzou. They can also earn their A+ hours. So when they're working in your classrooms, they should be working with students 2/3 of the time, whether that's one-on-one or in a small group setting, even teaching a whole class. During that time, they can earn A+ hours, and they log that and keep track of it with me, so there's no extra work on your part for that. They do earn high school credit as well. They get 3 practical arts and an English credit because when they're in class with me, I embed English skills into all of the projects and assignments that we do because it is a big part of their day. They're taking 3 class periods out of their day to be a part of this program, so we want to make sure that they are able to earn all the credits they need to graduate. I want to tell you a little bit about our curriculum. So you will get a copy, as I said, of the handbook, and you're welcome to look through that. You do not have to read it cover to cover. I'd say the most important pages for you to take a look at would be page 4, page 5, 6, 7, and 8. Those pages and I'm not going to read through it all with you. I will go over some of the most important stuff, but it gives you guidelines as to what cadets are allowed and not allowed to do in the classroom. It tells you about their schedule. Okay, page 8 does tell you what days they will be in the field each quarter so that you can keep track of when you want to utilize them. It tells you about how they can help with field trips and different activities going on in your class. It also tells you my expectations for them and how they dress, how they behave. These kids, keep in mind, I do very first week of school teach them about FERPA, and I tell them that because they're in a classroom with students, they have to abide by FERPA laws, which means that anything that we talk about in class, they are not going to reveal the identity of their students. We only talk about our students in class on a first name basis, so that everything in classes that we discuss is educational, but it does not, it's not at the expense of our students' privacy. As far as the different, in addition to FERPA, the different units that we study, you can see it outlined on this slide, but it's very detailed and it's very diverse. First quarter, we really focus on teaching them what it takes to be a teacher. So we talk about colleges of education. I have them actually go and research, go to the Occupational Outlook Handbook and look at the job market for teachers, what areas are considered high need. I have them look at the different ACT score that they're going to need, the tests they're going to have to take to get certified, and then they have to actually create a 5-year plan. They interview teachers to talk about important skills in teaching. We learn about classroom management and student development, and those 2 units are really important to me at the beginning of the year because it will allow them to start to help manage behavior in your classroom. At the very beginning of the year, and we'll talk about what the timeline looks like, but they're going to observe it first. And then when they start getting involved, usually the first thing cadets get involved with is helping you redirect students and keep them on task when they're working in different centers or groups. And so we do talk about management strategies like attention getters and how to help students with transitioning efficiently. Routines, and hopefully when they're observing, they'll be learning what your procedures are. If you have a clip up, clip down chart, if you have an absent folder, things that they can help you manage in the classroom. That's one of the ways I think that they can be a real aid to you. With student development, we teach them all about the different areas of development, physical, cognitive, social, emotional, so they know what to expect of your students and so that they can help with those student behaviors and needs. Second quarter, we start talking about barriers to education. I have Lindsay Jasper, our school research social worker, come in and talk about poverty and homelessness. She talks about issues such as multiculturalism in the classroom. We talk about different things going on with special education and gifted students. With the history of education, we really learn about all the different laws and court cases that have affected education and helped make it more inclusive over the years. So they learn about IDEA, they learn about Title IX, they learn about Title I, they learn about Brown versus the Board of Education. We approach the classroom with that mentality that every child can learn. And getting into one of the main goals of our program, which I didn't really mention before, but as we look at education in the 21st century, you guys as teachers all know how fast education is changing. And a lot of the students I get in the program are really good at playing school. So a lot of what we do when you look at this curriculum in front of you is very much project-based learning. In addition to the assignments that they're doing with you in the field, they'll be working collaboratively. We do a lot of cooperative learning, Kagan structures, but they will be working in groups. It's very student-led. I try to be more of a guide on the side while they research things that interest them in these different topics. They present with each other. There's a lot of presentations to really help them get comfortable being up in front of the classroom. And my goal is to get them doing what I call the 4 C's: thinking critically, being creative, communicating clearly, and collaborating with other people effectively. So in our class, there's not a lot of notes and paper pencil. It's very hands-on. It's very much student-led. And I want them to stop thinking of the teacher as always being the source of knowledge in the classroom. The teacher is really the facilitator, and it's up to the students to be in charge of their own learning. This is kind of the vision of our school district. Just having talked to our superintendent, our goal in our program is to grow our own, to have future teachers come back here and teach at our local districts. And so with education changing and us needing to really engage these 21st century learners, to be innovative, to be prepared for a job market that we don't really even know all the jobs that are going to be out there yet, yes, we're learning all the core foundations that students need to really decide if they enjoy being in a classroom, but we're also challenging them to think about education differently and think about how they can transform the classroom to be more appropriate for the 21st century. Third quarter, you can see, is really where we really start talking about curriculum and assessment, and that's where the students are going to learn how to lesson plan. I want to point this out because a lot of the supervising teachers don't know what the students are aware of and what they're able to do. They will not be asked to design their own lesson until third quarter, and that's when I go over Madeline Hunter design with them, and we talk a lot about the difference between diagnostic, pre-assessments, formative assessments, post-assessments. They'll have some background knowledge of that first semester, but I can't stress this enough. Really, first semester, to get them hands-on involved in the classroom, it's going to be more helpful if you have specific tasks that you assign to them. By second quarter, they should know your routines, and they should be monitoring and managing behavior without you prompting them. And then by second semester, that's really where I want to see them take initiative and jump in and help with instruction more. Okay, they're not student teachers. They're never going to take over the class for you. And on one of my next slides, we can talk about different ways you can utilize the cadets. But I really do try to, from the very beginning of the year, set boundaries with them, make sure that they know that they can't do anything in that classroom without your approval, and that I support what you say as a supervising teacher 100%. So I back you up. If there's anything that a cadet does that you feel is inappropriate, you let me know, and I will be sure to address it. So by fourth quarter, they're learning about things like funding and governance. That's when we tour district office, we go to a school board meeting, we learn about professional organizations. So they hear about MSTA and MNEA and the different organizations they can be a part of. We have a major technical skills assessment. So it's a year-end test, sort of like MAP or EOC, and they can actually earn a pre-certification in education. It doesn't mean they can be a teacher, it just means that it helps them get into a college of education earlier. We have a pretty good passing rate on that. Last year, this 2017-18 school year, we had 91% of our students get pre-certified. So I'm really proud of the curriculum that we have. I'm sure, as always, it's going to evolve and it can improve. So if you have any suggestions on things we should talk about in class, please don't hesitate to let me know. So talking a little bit about your role. Okay, this is the main part of the training that I want to cover. I am happy, by the way, to come, especially for you new teachers, and meet with you and brainstorm ideas of how to utilize your cadets in a meaningful way to both you and your students. At the very beginning of the year, they're going to start coming out to you in September. And again, on page 8 in the handbook that I give you, there will be an official schedule. But what we're looking at is the first couple of times that you're in your classroom, I would ask that you give them time to just sit and observe and take notes. They're going to be taking in what your classroom management looks like, what your regular procedures and expectations are for students, because I want them to, again, support you and enforce the things that you expect in your classroom. After that, you can start utilizing them however you see fit. That might mean that they're doing individual, small group, or whole class work, but again, 2/3 of the time, they do need to be working directly with students. I do get a lot of teachers who choose to utilize the cadets by, if you have a student who is absent, they might work one-on-one with them to catch them up. If you have a small group of students that need remediation on a skill, you can have a cadet go back and take them to a separate area and review with them. If you use learning centers, you can put a cadet in charge of running a center. If your students are working in groups, they can help you walk around from group to group and monitor student learning and answer questions. You can have cadets do research for you. So if there's a new strategy you're thinking about using and you want to know how to utilize it, you can ask a cadet to look up how that might look in your classroom and how it might work, and you guys could even design a lesson together. Obviously, they can manage behavior, so I think sometimes one of the main benefits is when you have a cadet in class, if you're ever absent and have a sub, and you have a cadet that knows the routines, they can do things like lunch count, calendar time, just the normal things that you would do in your classroom. They'll be able to take that over and know what that looks like on a day-to-day basis. I think one thing that's really important is that you find a way to communicate with your cadet. So if they're going to be absent, they can either text you or call you or email you, and vice versa. If you have something you need to communicate with them before you see them again, since you do not see them every day at first, I think having that clear communication is important. I'll leave it up to you guys to decide which method of communication is best. As far as me, I'm probably the easiest way to reach me is email, and you'll have my email and my cell phone number. Feel free to use either one, but reach out anytime with questions. I do ask that my supervising teacher sort of acts as the liaison for the building. So I'm in charge of 11 different buildings that my cadets are placed in, and so I travel to the different buildings. If your school is map testing, or if there is a major assembly and if you need to adjust your cadets' hours, just kind of give me a heads up in advance with as much advance notice as possible, and we will make other arrangements. But otherwise, like I said, they follow the schedule on page 8. Okay, so we talked a little bit about how to utilize your cadets. Some teachers, and honestly, it's going to look different in every placement. What students are doing in a preschool classroom is going to look a lot different than what they're doing at the middle school. So most teachers have a daily routine. You know, maybe you like to put bell ringers on your board, and eventually your cadet can take over the bell ringers and lead that discussion and practice. I have had some teachers who create a folder, they have it in a certain part of the room, with a checklist of tasks that they want the cadet to be in charge of, and it gives them directions to do that. If you have the time to put that together, that's so helpful because it has them come in and without having to communicate directly, if you're in the middle of teaching, that cadet can go to that folder and read the list and can get started working. It is okay to utilize cadets in ways other than just working with students, okay? I want them to see the whole aspect of teaching, every little bit, all the different roles that you play. So you can have them use die cutters, you can have them make copies as long as your principals are okay with that. You can have them make bulletin boards for you. They can organize your classroom. So you can have them cleaning things off, you know, wiping down tables if need be. You can have them help other teachers in your building too. So if there's a teacher that you know needs something and you don't have a lot for the cadet to do that day, it's okay for them to go in and work in another classroom. It's okay for you to have your cadets help you supervise recess. It's okay to have them file things. Grading is okay. You know, you don't want them actually going online and entering your grades for you because, again, a FERPA, you don't really want them to have that private information. But, you know, if you have a key and you want them to look over something and grade it, they can absolutely do that. So I want to give you a lot of flexibility in how you utilize those cadets. They get bored when they're just observing, so it's okay to have days where they're just observing, but you probably don't want to do that every single week. As far as attendance, I get a lot of questions about attendance. Last year we started something new, and it worked really well. My students use an app called Google Voice. So Google Voice allows me to give them a phone number that will directly text or call me, but it's not my cell phone number, which I just feel a little bit more comfortable with that. To keep those lines with teacher-student professionalism there, just some boundaries. But they can get a hold of me at any time if they need to. So when they arrive at their building, they actually text me and they sign in. What's really great about it is that Google Voice keeps basically a documentation that I could go in and print if I needed of all the times they've signed in and signed out all in one thread. So that way, that helps me verify A+ hours and everything else. The downside to that is that obviously they can lie, and so students can sign in who are actually not in the building. It's one of the reasons I do check-ins, and I just pop into different buildings. I usually make one visit per quarter, but also this is where I utilize you. If you have a student who is frequently absent or tardy, I do ask that you notify me. The very beginning of the year, before they ever enter your classroom, you will receive an email from your cadet introducing themselves, telling you a little bit about them, and telling you what times they plan to be in the field. Our class runs either from 8:25 to 11 a.m. if you have a morning cadet, or 11:45 to 2:15 p.m. if you have an afternoon cadet. So you can expect to have them in class with you about 2.5 hours. Now that doesn't mean that they're going to be there right until 2:15 if they're in the afternoon session. This block of time is also what they use to, you know, obviously drive themselves to and from the field as well. So depending on what building they're in, I have to adjust their times in the field so that they have plenty of time to get back to their high school and get back to any other classes that they have. So do look for that email in the first couple of weeks of school before they come out, and that will tell you what time they will be arriving and leaving on a regular basis. And if you ever have questions, you know you'll be able to reach me. So that pretty much goes over everything. So I will kind of just mention a few more things. We have had cadets in the past go on field trips with their class. That's completely fine. There's actually a procedure that you would follow, and it's, again, within that handbook that I mentioned on page, let's look. I think that's page 7 is where it talks about field trips. Cadets can be removed from a placement if there are any issues. See, at the very beginning of the year, we have cadets going into the field 2 days a week. By second quarter, they're with you 3 days a week. And by second semester, they're actually with you 4 days a week, and we only meet in class on Tuesdays. Now, that being said, second semester is busy. I have all seniors, so there's a lot of senior class meetings for graduation, different fundraisers, different student events. So sometimes students get pulled from class. Look for emails from me to notify you if a cadet will not be there. But I do expect them to sort of be in charge of the communication as well, so they should be notifying you. And for the field trips, basically what the procedure is that you take a copy of your permission slip that you give your students, you give it to the cadet, have them sign, give to their parent. They return that to me, and I get them excused from all of their classes that day. It's sometimes really helpful to have a cadet with you because they can help supervise students, help hand out lunches and those sorts of things, but it's absolutely optional. So if you do not want the cadet to go on field trips with you, that is not an expectation in the class. We've had supervising teachers utilize cadets in so many different ways. They've helped at parent-teacher conferences. They've gone to faculty meetings. But again, I'm very flexible. So if there's anything in your building that you feel like a cadet cannot or should not do, you just notify me, and we modify the assignment however is needed to make it work with your placement. So I just want to, again, thank you for being a part of this program this year, because this is such an important part. The field is really what the students enjoy the most. If you're more interested in hearing about our program, I'd like to invite you to be a member of my advisory committee. Every career and technical education program at Four Rivers Career Center has an advisory committee. It's required by DESE. Basically, I have to have at least 12 people who work in the field that my program's involved in. You're all educators, so that would include you. You come, and we meet 2 times per year, usually in October and April, and we have about a 1.5 to 2 hour meeting that goes over the marketing of my program. We talk about the curriculum, the performance. We even talk about something called CTSOs, student organizations. So if you know of FFA, HOSA, those are CTSOs. The one we use in teaching careers is called Educators Rising. It allows students to go to state and national conferences and compete. We actually have taken competitors to nationals the last 2 years, to Orlando and Phoenix. So really great experience and helps them network with other future educators. So I'd love to tell you more about this and all the details of our program, which I absolutely love. I'm so passionate about growing future teachers, and it's just really exciting to me to know that the kids that we're mentoring may someday be our colleagues and maybe working alongside us. And I can't wait to see that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flip to the last slide. It has my contact information that I promised. And I know that this video is now getting close to 25 minutes, so if you're still hanging in there with me, I just want to thank you. Please email me, notify me that you've completed the training. You can feel free to ask any questions that you have, and I look forward to working with you throughout the year. Thanks.